In the city, at the office, on the road, wherever he may be needed. Armed with a mower and a partially charged cell phone, one man aims to take on the world.
My name is Robert Chapman, and this is the first episode of the newly revived WGDP, the world's greatest dad podcast. This was the very first podcast I created way back in 2017. I've had a few podcasts since, and I've journeyed through so much life in just these 8 or 9 years that a return to WGDP was just what the doctor ordered. All credit really goes to my wife, who said that this was one of her favorite projects that I've ever done. And so she encouraged me to kick this back into gear, and like I said, all credit. Thanks, Meg. I appreciate it. Also, by the way, at the beginning, if you heard some kids yelling in that opener, those were my very, very young kids 7, 8, or 9 years ago. Anyway, I had 3 seasons last go round talking about normal dads, talking to normal dads, working dads, creative dads, and dads who did their most to be the best that they could. Over these 3 seasons, I realized that there really was no such thing as the world's greatest dad. We're all trying to figure out what the next step is. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? So instead, I say that we use the conversations gathered here and borrow some of the great ideas from these dads and the heartfelt efforts that they have done and instill them inside our own selves and our own efforts. I kept racking my brain as to who I should ask to be on the first episode. And, first episode back, I guess. And it hit me. It's baseball season. And arguably the best rookie in all of Major League Baseball is from right here in the heart of Central Mississippi. That's the Pirates' own Konnor Griffin. I thought, what if I could get his dad, Kevin, to sit down for an interview and talk about a few things? I mean, he was one of my previous guests way back in the early days. I bet he'd have some great insights and a few stories that he could share. Turns out I was exactly right. You know, it's really exciting bringing this podcast back. That I get to talk to some of the dads that I previously talked to in previous episodes. And one of the first dads that I got to talk to is a guy named Kevin Griffin. Kevin is a wonderful guy, a great coach, a good man in his own right. But he's kind of traded off some of his I'm a coach for I'm somebody's dad, and so we'll get into that in a little bit further down the road. But Kevin, how you been this summer?
I'm good. It's been hot. A lot of traveling around. We've been all over the place watching baseball, both with Caden and with Konnor. But it's been good. It's been good to get away and get back to the grind here soon with Belhaven Softball.
That's right. We'll get into Belhaven softball a little bit later because you've come off of some quality years, most winningest coach, all that kind of stuff. But we'll get there. But let's. I always start these interviews off by asking 10 questions because I think it's funny how dads answer these questions very differently in various parts of their life. So we'll just right off the bat, what were your diaper skills like?
I thought I was good. You know, changing nasty diapers early, that was an experience, but I got the hang of it pretty well. And, I had a lot of responsibility, especially the middle of the night. So I had to learn how to change diapers very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people. You don't really think of. I always laugh. The first time I ever changed a diaper was with my own kid, so I never knew what I was doing. So it's I guess kind of like a coach. If you get somebody in, they don't have any bad habits to fix. I just went in and learned it straight off the bat. What about those newborn days? Like, how did you deal? How did you help with teething and feeding and all the routine like that?
I don't remember much about the teething part. I do remember that first diaper change, going back to that question. I was always told you better be quick and cover that thing up. And first time I didn't take advice and got hit right between the eyes. So learned my lesson really, really fast. But as far as feeding and things like that, I was very involved. I wanted to take some ownership of that and try to give Kim as many breaks throughout the night as I could. And that was kind of a routine that we set from Cannon all the way to Caden for all three, and I felt like I did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, and you had some practice. Now your boys are they about 10 years apart, 9 years apart, something like that? You got three in a at about a 10 year span.
Well, it's not that far apart. Cannon's 21,
Okay,
Connor's 20, Cannon's about to be 22,
gotcha. Okay,
and Caden just turned 17. So it's about 4 or 5 years
there we go.
apart.
Okay, yeah, but say I had English teacher math kind of slipping in there. All
It's
right,
that Clinton math. That
that's right.
Clinton
That's
math.
exactly right. How did you handle late night wake ups? What was your routine? Did y'all have kind of a trade off, or how did that handle?
We pretty much did the same thing for all three boys. I would do the feeding late at night, like the 11 o'clock, midnight, so Kim could go to bed. She had to get up earlier than me. With my coaching schedule, I was a little more flexible, being able to not have to get up and be at the office as early. And then in the summertime, we didn't really have office hours, so to speak. So I would feed the 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock feeding, and I would just stay up and do the 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and I'd go to sleep. And then Kim would get up and do the early morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. type feedings. So we did that routine pretty much with all three of our boys, and I handled those first two of the night, and then she got up and did the early morning stuff. So I thought we teamed up on that pretty well.
So yeah, okay, so talking about that, so tell me about your morning routines. Do you remember what your morning routines were like? Because I always laugh with other dads. I always talk about once you get into a routine, it's going to change. So, but do you remember what any of those routines were like?
The only thing I remember is she let me sleep in since I was up all night, and or in the middle of the night. I got some sleep in between, but she let me sleep in, and she got up and did that, and then took took the kids to daycare on her way to work. So
No.
it it was pretty much that way for all three. And so I don't remember a whole lot about the mornings, except I wasn't really a morning person. Still
Yeah.
am not really a morning person, but she loves getting up, and that's the way we handled it. And she did a good job with that.
What about nighttime? Did you have any kind of routine there? What was your participation in the kid aspect of bedtime?
It was just feeding and getting them down. I helped out with that a lot, and I'd like to say I did my part. You ask Kim, she might be like, "Well, he could have done more," but I really think, like I said, I think we teamed up on it, and I was excited about being a dad,
Yeah.
whether it was my first, second, or third. I was excited about having another baby in the house. Um, if we could adopt, I'd probably do it again now,
Yeah.
but there's no way in this stage of life that would do it. But I loved having babies in the house, and I love, you know, holding them, and even my own grandkids now. I love being around them.
What are some of your fondest memories of being a dad? You know, you're talking about how much you were excited about being a dad. You've had, over 2 decades worth of it. What are some of your fondest memories?
Well, being a sports family, obviously, it's all the time that I got to spend with them out on a baseball field, or uh, early early childhood days soccer, which I'm glad that ended pretty fast. but but stuck with baseball and on the basketball court and things like that. So that time being out on the field with my kids in both a practice and a game setting
Mhm.
early on in like the coach pitch baseball days, and that's probably some of the most fun sports memories I have with my kids for sure.
What about on the flip side of that? What are some of the toughest memories that you either learned something through or you grew from?
Just relationships and breakups that they have to go through and that kind of thing. Accidents. Konnor was injured in a go kart accident when he was 8 and almost lost his eye and had over 100 stitches in his face. And you look at him now and you wouldn't really be able to tell unless you just stared him down and were looking for it. But they all even at this stage in life, with Cannon being 21, 22 years old, breaking his leg in multiple places a couple of months ago on a four-wheeler. Just you always continue to be a dad regardless of how old your kids are, and I think it'll always be that way. We always try to give advice, and you hope that they take your advice, and even if they don't, you hope that they learn and make the right decisions and right choices. But I think it goes back to how you taught them while they were growing up. You can't hold their hand their whole life, but you can try to guide them that when they have to make their own decisions, that they make smart ones. And I feel like for the most part, all three of our boys have done a good job with that.
What do you think, if you were talking about if you could adopt and jump back in it? Let's say you wake up and you're back in it and you're a dad. What do you think is something that first of all you're like, oh, that's gonna be a wild one. But what are some challenges? What do you think is one or two of the biggest challenges that face dads today, young dads and experienced dads?
Talking about like the newborn level or just being a
Any of
dad
it,
of young
yeah.
kids? Um, I'll skip the newborn and like the ages from like 1 to 8 or 1 to 9. Let's get to like 10,
Hmm.
10 years old up to like the teenage years. I think social media is a problem. It is for us adults as well. I mean, I can admit that as far as being on it all the time and making it part of your life and control you and that kind of thing. But I think kids have an even bigger issue with it because they don't go outside anymore. They don't go hang out with friends. They go to their room, they get on a computer or their phone, and I think it consumes them. And I think that's a big thing that parents have to deal with today, how to put restrictions on that kind of thing without your kids, resenting you for that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And you got to make some tough decisions in regards to social media and just computers in general, just in this day and age. And I think it's hard. I think it's harder now than when my kids were 10, 11, 12 years old. I think it's tough. So I don't envy parents that have to deal with that kind of thing in this day and age because it's just taken off and really gotten out of control.
What is something that you're a coach, you get to deal with young people every day, and these young women that you coach, but they're going to end up getting married down the road, and then even your own sons, they're going to grow up and be somebody. They're going to be a parent, a brother, a sister, something like that. What are some of the things that you feel are your responsibility to pass on, not just to your own boys, but also to the young ladies that you coach, that you're trying to coach them just beyond the diamond?
Yeah, I think the main thing is, this is a political and religious era where everybody's gotten all kinds of thoughts and ideas coming at them from all different directions. And stand up for what you believe, but do it in a loving way. I think
Mhm.
this day and age, especially of college athletics, you're blended, and even high school athletics, you're blended with people that have a whole lot of different backgrounds and beliefs, and those backgrounds and beliefs are okay. You can still love on people regardless of what they believe in and that sort of thing. You don't have to like it, you don't have to agree with it, but there's a lot of you hear about um, you know inclusive and being inclusive and that kind of thing in this day and age. And I feel like you can still love on people without believing everything that everybody does and everybody believes. So that's tough. And the second thing, and we've tried to instill this in our kids as well as my players throughout the years, is just be humble and be kind to people. And my wife always says, people will always remember. They will not always remember your stats and how many games you won and that sort of thing, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Mhm.
And I feel like as a coach, that's important for me. I don't want to shove softball down my players' throat 24/7 to where they resent it and resent me. I want them to know that I care about them off the field as much as I do on the field, and it's not all about their numbers or their stats. And if they believe that you care about them as a person, I think that they're going to play harder for you. And so that's kind of the message that I like to send to my players is we're going to care about you off the field as people, and you know, don't worry about your numbers and your stats, but treat people kindly and be humble, and they'll always remember that more than anything else.
Absolutely. All right, the last of the 10 dad questions. And I love how, again, everybody answers these in a unique manner. Um, when the kids were little, and even now with you coaching, how did you handle time for you and other stuff like date night and guys' night and anything like that? Was there ever a way that you made kind of a priority for that kind of outside the family?
Yeah, you have to figure out ways to spend time with your wife and kids outside of an athletic setting for sure.
Mhm.
And that time away is important. Thankfully, we had Kim's parents who were right here local, and anytime we ever wanted to go do something, they were willing to help out. My mom and dad was 7 hours away, and they would drive in and they would come and help us out as well. So it's good to have people in your corner that we call it our circle. Have people in your circle that love you and care about you and care more for you as a person than what you can do for them. And so it was important to have people in our circle. Still is to this day, probably even more with everything that we're going through. But um, you just have to find ways to make time. And it, I felt like Kim and I were always taking vacations, and we were doing it like inclusive of a sporting event or a travel ball tournament.
Mhm.
And if we played in a tournament at the beach, we would make it a vacation and go a couple extra days early and stay a few extra days late after the event, and just try to do some family time along with, because it wasn't real fair to, if one was playing in a tournament, the other two boys had to go and kind of just sit there and watch until that tournament was over. A lot of times, Cannon and Konnor were playing together
All right.
um, in events, but Caden was always just drug along as a young kid. And we always tried to find ways to include activities that he would enjoy as well, whether it be Kim skipping a game and going to the beach with him while I'm at the field with the other two, or vice versa. We just tried to always find ways to do family activities outside of the sports arena. And it was not always easy. It was tough, but we found a way to do it.
Yeah, I like a good balance like that. I think when you're not trying to make it so perfect, and but you're showing a little bit of extra emphasis on the other kids, it shows a little bit of the vulnerability, and the parents gets to show the kids this is how we make things work, and so I like that approach. So again, the last time you and I talked on this specific podcast, this is the first one back. So like I said, I'm really excited that you're agreeing to do this. World was a completely different place in so many different realms. It was 2017. My little ones were
Mm.
little. Your little ones were still in school. There was no number 6 jersey for the Pirates. There was, the other two weren't doing all the incredible things they're doing. It was still, everybody was still just a little kid. And so I found my questions that I sent you. Instead of asking all of these, I highlighted a few of them that I want to kind of revisit. So I want you to talk to me from 2026, this point of view, and not necessarily from 8 or 9 years ago. So one of the questions that I wrote down here that I saw was, what role does or did the family play in making it through large changes? You have had some very large changes as a dad and as a family over these years with all three of your sons. How did your family work together inside your circle with all the noise that was going on? How did family time really help with all of the changes that you all got to experience?
Man, it just gave us a chance to get away from all of the hoopla of, you know, draft preparation and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of people might think, yeah, it just affected Konnor. It affected all of our kids. It affected Cannon. It affected Caden just because they heard it all the time. People were coming into our home um, to do interviews and that sort of thing, and it was all about Konnor. But I'll give a lot of those people credit. They found ways to include our entire family,
Mhm.
and we kind of pushed that as well. We didn't want our other kids to kind of be pushed to the wayside just because Konnor was getting a lot of attention. And I felt like we did a really good job of setting up interviews and stuff where people came into our house that our whole family was sitting there and involved with, and we let our other boys experience um, the entire thing along with Konnor. And I feel like it's something that they'll remember for the rest of their life because if I had to go back and do it all over again, I don't think I would do it any differently
Yeah.
because we were very intentional about making it a family thing and not just all about Konnor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. My brother played baseball and he got drafted nowhere near where Connor got drafted, but he got drafted and got to play, rookie ball before he got hurt and all. So I got to see a little bit of the fun that happened, and then work a little intentional on myself of how do I celebrate my brother and how do I fight against that idea of he's getting the attention that I'm not. We were in different paths and it was different worlds, so it was a lot of fun to kind of join together as brothers to celebrate each other. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How did you see your three kind of rally around each other? Because you got mom and dad, you're up there, you're having to do all the things mom and dad are doing. But especially during, draft day and then going all the way through the minor leagues and then the first day of major league, where he gets to hit an awesome, RBI double and all that. How did you see the brothers kind of link with each other and stay tight?
Yeah, it was really cool. Even to this day, I think Cannon and Caden are probably Connor's biggest fans outside of Kim and I. But even early on, you could see it, especially in Cannon. He'd read something on social media if somebody said something negative, and Cannon was very defensive of he wanted to pop back at people, and we had to just kind of encourage him, leave it alone. The opinion of those people don't really matter. We would never ask those people for advice, so why should
Uh-huh.
we
Uh-huh.
worry? Why should we worry about what they think? And so it was good to be able to teach our kids life lessons through the experiences that we went through with the whole situation with Konnor. So I feel like that Caden and Cannon both learned a lot by watching how Konnor handled things and how we tried to get our whole family to handle certain situations, good or bad. Then you fast forward to the draft, and one of my most favorite, I guess, memories, pictures. I've got a picture of it, and then I've got constant pictures in my head of it. Um, is when Connor's name was selected, when he heard his name called at the draft. Just our boys, Cannon, Caden, Konnor, they were all hugging each other, and it was pretty cool. That's just one thing that I'll remember, and I can never get out of my head is how they rallied around each other during that time.
Um, you talked about going through good times. You talked about going through bad times, and if you took a snapshot right now of Connor's career, I mean, he's fairly new rookie. He's got 5 home runs. I mean, it's crazy, but he's had some injuries here, injuries there. Made it back, had to go back, on the injured list. How has he or how have the conversations between you and him kind of worked out about the long road? We always like to say inside baseball and softball, there's a lot of baseball to be played. It's his early innings right now. He's got a long career coming up for him. But what kind of conversations have y'all had about trying to make the most of a bad situation and trying to make the most of a good situation?
Yeah, it's tough right now with an injury just because he's wanting to be out there. They're in a playoff race, trying to make the playoffs and a couple of games out, and he feels kind of helpless, just sitting there, not being able to be on the field and help his team during this time. but it's also part of the game where, you know, you play 162 games a year, you're going to get banged up. You would like to not have injuries that cost you games, but
Mhm.
that's just been the way it is. And I think it's good for him to experience that here early in his career because it'll help him appreciate the years that he goes through and he don't have an injury and he gets to play in all 162. He'll be able to look back on this and see what he overcame. And I think to overcome it mentally is a big thing as well. If you can overcome this, you can overcome a lot of things in the game. But early on in his career, we had to really talk about, people were always in his ear. They wanted him to change his stance, change his swing, and things were going good, and they still wanted him to change. And finally, I had to look at him and say, Konnor, man, you have to understand this is your career. This is not their career, and you've got to do what you feel comfortable doing. And that was hard for an 18-year-old kid to look at people who were trying to get him to make changes at the professional level and let it go in one ear and out the other and be like, in the back of my mind, this is my career and I'm not going to do anything that is going to make me any worse of a player. So I was proud of him for taking ownership of his own career and sticking to his guns and what worked for him, and have seen him just flourish from that point forward. So it's always a learning experience. It's always something new. And I'm just proud that he's been able to stick to his guns and stand up for himself and do what he feels like is best for him and not what's best for everybody else.
One of the things I vividly remember from our last interview that we did this back in 2017 was I asked you what it was like to bring the boys on a trip to a game, letting them ride the bus, letting them see how the team prepares. And I remember you saying that this was a perspective that not a lot of kids will ever get, and that maybe one day it will pay off. Do you ever look back at your time with the boys on the bus with your team, and you see it beyond just a special moment of being a dad, but you got to see how it's prepared all three of them for whatever professional route they're going to take?
Yeah, they didn't always get to travel a whole lot because they were in school or they had their own games. And I missed a lot of their stuff because I was gone a lot during the spring for the last, this is my 17th year
Mhm.
at Belhaven. So they didn't get to take a lot of those trips, but when they did, I felt like they were able to see um, hard work pay off and just routines and how. Uh, how you prepare for games matters a lot, and how you prepare your body for the course of a long season, it matters a lot. So I really feel like they were able to gain more on that side of things than just being on the bus and watching us win games or lose games. I felt like them being able to experience the preparation that goes into it probably paid off more than anything. And hearing us talk about it at the house as well.
Mhm.
When I got back from a road trip, just talking about the excitement of seeing all the hard work pay off. They were involved in a lot of those conversations.
So the hard work has definitely paid off because, like I said, mentioned earlier, you are the winningest coach in the Belhaven softball program. That's nothing slight to misstep at. It's a huge accomplishment, and you've been there. You said 17 seasons, and recently you've had a continuation of success. Where do you find the energy and the time still to coach a quality team, to put out a quality product, and continue to recruit?
The energy, it's dwindling, but it I still love competing. Um, Practices. I feel like you can only get so much done in a practice before uh, players lose interest. And I try to do a good job of keeping practices moving and fast paced. And we're not out there for 3.5 hours. Usually, when the season starts, we're hour and a half to 2 hours max, and anything more than that, something's wrong. But I live for games. I love coaching, uh, in-game strategy, decisions, and I hate to lose. That's my biggest thing is I hate to lose more than I love to win. And I think that's kind of what continues to drive me. And that's why I've continued to do it for so long.
What have you learned most from coaching that is kind of that you're proud of, that you're sitting here now, again, you're a dad of a possible future major league Hall of Famer or All Star or something like that. You've got two other boys that are extremely hard workers that are very ambitious. They got that both honest from you and your wife. What are some of your proudest moments and biggest things that you think that you could take away just from the coaching world?
Oh man, I think just from like the youth sports from the time they were young and time we kind of did it differently than everyone else. You hear this day and age, you got to go play in all these showcase events, and you got to go find out your numbers, and you got to get in front of all these people. We kind of took a different route, and I'm proud that we didn't give in to all the showcase stuff that is out there. We played in some big tournaments, but we didn't really go do the big showcase scene. And we started local with rec leagues, and we did rec league all stars and played on local travel teams until we were about 13, 14 years old, and then we got on some bigger teams. But I'm proud that we did it that way, and that it worked. And I wish other parents would take that advice and not feel like they have to spend $10,000 a summer just to go get your kids noticed, because you could save that money and put it toward college if you want to be realistic about it. So I'm proud of that. And then at the college level, just being able to repeat it pretty much every single year. We finished second in the country now 3 times. We finished third twice. I finished fifth once. Getting players to continue to come to our program that believe in what we do at a small school like Belhaven, NCAA Division III, when everybody's got Division I on their brain these days. For good players to kind of take a step down and come to a Division III program, I think when they get here, they realize, man, we could win most Division I mid-major leagues in the country with the talent that we've had in our program over the last 17 years. So that's what I'm most proud of, is that we're able to bring players in, give them a great education, and set them up to be something special in life outside of the game of softball once they graduate and get out into the real world. And it's the same thing with my own kids. Feel like we've given them a good path, and I wouldn't change anything. If I had to go back and do it again, I think I'd do it all the same.
That's good. Well, Kevin, man, I appreciate your time. Again, this is the second go round that you had on this podcast, and I couldn't think of anybody better to be the first one on the Resurrection podcast. I think that's great. We'd certainly be cheering for number 6, ready for him to get back. I don't think I've ever kept up with the Pirates as much as I have in the last 6 months. So I
Me
guess
either. Me
I'm about
either.
to say, yeah, a lot of Mississippi could probably say the same thing. Again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
All right. Thanks for having me.
I can't thank Kevin enough for his time and his willingness to revisit this podcast. I'm excited to publish it once again, and it is going to be so much fun. If you know a dad, maybe even your dad, who would be a wonderful person to talk to about all things dad and fatherhood, then let me know. Send me an email at therobertchapman@gmail.com or DM on the social media outlets. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at WGDPod. That's WGDPOD. If your dad is still around, give him a call and listen to his bad jokes. Let him tell you the stories you've heard a million times, and just let him know that you were thinking of him. It goes a long way. Trust me. If your dad isn't around anymore, hold on to the memories you have and do something kind for someone else. Thanks again for visiting. We will be back with more right here on WGDP, the world's greatest dad podcast.